Hi, everyone. Welcome to my new setup for this channel, the Amplify Audio Review channel. Um, I believe I call it Amplify Audio Reviews. It's just one of those days where I woke up not really feeling myself because I haven't been able to get a lot of sleep. Work has really kept me busy, and I do a bunch of different things for work. I work for in research, in international development, in consulting, so on and so forth. So I think generally speaking, work has been hectic, guys, and I haven't gotten around to doing as many reviews as I'd like, but it is what it is. So from now on, I'm going to be using this sort of setup to do my reviews. So I have a backdrop, I have a decent camera, I can even turn the light on. So if you want to see more light on my face, and this review is going to be of the Abyss JOAL, the Jack of all trades, as it is called. Um, the first thing you'll notice is that it's a beautiful headphone, especially if you like this sort of blacked out aesthetics, which I do. I think most men do. Not to make a gendered comment, but I feel like I don't even need to disclaim nowadays for various reasons. So anyway, I think this is a phenomenal headphone, guys. It is a headphone that my friend, who goes by the nickname Roasty on Headfi, he got it, and he's like a super high end headfire. Like this guy has I would wager. I mean, I don't want to sort of give away without his permission the amount of dollars he spent on his stable, but he's got one of the most expensive setups. He's got the best, to my mind. I mean, among the Head-Fi circles, at least, a set of, let's say, double chassis tube preamps, speaker amps, of course, headphone amps like the Riviera Labs EIC10, the Woo Audio, and he's got a plethora of some of the finest headphones on the planet. So all that to say, when he bought this, after trying this in Singapore, and then he advised that I try it, I did in the privacy of his own home. And I fell in love with it because I was like, how do you like a headphone at this sort of price point when you have headphones that are like $6,000, $10,000? Because he does, and I did at that time, and I still do. Because I mean, headphones do scale with price. Of course, you have the exception when it doesn't, and I think then we reviewers and even audiophiles, we read too much into that, and we start clamoring for value. And hey, this headphone from so and so company is supposed to be $5,000, but it doesn't really hold up. This was one instance where this $2,000 headphone really, really, really like hit hard, and of course in more ways than one, because it does have superlative bass. But anyway, fast forward to just a couple of months ago, I got this thanks to Abyss headphones, and I've been listening to this, and I've been listening and listening and listening, and I should have done this review a long time ago, and I apologize because I've been hinting at this, that I'll be doing this review, and I haven't gotten around to it. I look a bit like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle with this, but that's possibly my head aesthetics, which I like. I like being bald, but I do think that this is a very, very, very nice looking headphone, guys. Regardless of whether you think this looks pretty, whether I look pretty with this is a phenomenal headphone for the price, looks wise as well. In terms of construction and build, it's all metal, so that's something that I think always pleases the heart to see premium materials. And yes, it's got this very premium aluminum construction, right? And as you can see, it catches light because it's got these beautiful ridges, and it just does look so beautiful, right? And I think if you also want to sort of see the comfortable, very pillowy, very, 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 very pillowy pads, I mean, this is so comfortable. And the headband system is very functional. It's very, very functional. There's nothing wrong with it. It does also look pretty in different ways, right? If you can see this, the patterns here, it is a very pretty sort of a look, and overall, it just comes together beautifully. It's all metal. It's still light. It's around 400 grams. It's not difficult to drive. If you want to know about the specs, it's around 30 ohms in impedance, about 90 decibels in sensitivity. So you can drive this off an Apple dongle, as the cliche goes. But of course, you should never drive anything off an Apple dongle because source doesn't matter. and sources can make or break the hobby for you. They can. I mean, a lot of people will be in denial because they will say, "Oh, the headphone sucks." But oftentimes, or not oftentimes, a lot of the times, or many occasionally, it's the source that's holding your headphone or IEMs back, and that's just how it is. And yeah, I mean, you can argue about cables, guys, and that's fine. And I think cables, that sort of space is a very legitimate way of arguing. But sources matter. You go to the Stacks forums, and they've figured out transistors that make a difference to the warmth of a headphone, right? And even the greatest builders of ESAT amplifiers will talk about this. So all that to say, this is a beautiful headphone. This is a beautiful looking headphone, and I meander and I ramble, and you have to excuse that, right? That's just how I do reviews. Okay, so stunning looking headphone. I love these ridges and the way it's catching light. I just love the BIS logo. I think it's a very cool logo. I just love the blacked out look. It's an homage in many ways and a derivative of their flagship headphone, which is, to my mind, perhaps the greatest headphone ever made, which is the BIS AB1266 Phi TC, Total Consciousness, as that's what TC stands for. That is the best headphone on the planet ever made, and they're far more expensive headphones, but it beats everything else to shit, I think, because of the amazing construction, the amazing sound. It just does bass so well. I mean, the mids are not as forte, but I'm not a mid head, so take that for what it's worth. I do own a Sennheiser HD6XX, which satisfies my cravings for the sweetest mids or sweet mids. But the best you can EQ, the 1266. This does not need any kind of EQ, I just want to say. So the Biz can become like a, go anywhere, do anything sort of a headphone. If you know how to EQ and if you have a tube amp, which I do. I have a hybrid tube amp, the Riviera Lab, the IC10. So this looks like the Biz is basically, the shorthand of what I want to say. The 1266, I mean, it's blacked out. It does look also like the DZ and the Phi TC and the other headphones and the Diana Phi. It does look like the Diana series of headphones, but I mean, I do think some people are confused as to how they sound different, and they do, because this is by far the warmest Abyss headphone ever made. This is by far the warmest Abyss headphone ever made. I'm repeating it because it's a warm of neutral headphone to my ears, which it might come as a surprise because a lot of people associate Abyss with sharp and piercing sounds, which it doesn't. This does not hold up to that stereotype. Okay, now to talk about sound, guys. I've given you a sense of its drivability, so you can drive it off anything, and I really think you can drive it off anything, but it does scale with better quality amplification and DACs. It's light, it's super light, it's less than 400 grams. It's like feather light. It's roomy, it doesn't have clamps. If you like clamp, that's something we're keeping in mind. It doesn't really have clamp, but it suspends really nicely. Now, guys, sound wise, it's a neutral sounding headphone with very good bass extension, very good bass impact. I don't have to tell you about Abyss's bass impact because that's for granted. It extends very well. Although I feel like there will be an odd hyphen. I mean, the hyphen headphones extend really well, but their bass sounds wimpy, plasticky, unsatisfying, which is why I've never been able to hold on to a hyphen headphone no matter how much I tried. Even Susvara, which I've bought and sold 5 times or maybe 6. Every time I've gotten a new flagship amp, I've bought the Susvara, hoping that maybe the rest of the frequency response will live up to the mids and the treble, which Susvara excels at. Although the 8 kilohertz is a bit shimmery for me on the Susvara, but the bass never satisfies me on Susvara. No matter how many people have said that you need to unlock the bass with that speaker amp, it doesn't work. I've tried everything, and I've been trying everything since the last. I don't even know since when. Since the beginning of the pandemic, it seems like eons ago. Yeah, I mean, I can even tell you, I can write essays on what each speaker amp sounds like that I've tried with bass, and I'm talking about $10,000 to $20,000 speaker amps. I mean, with the Susvara. So the Susvara doesn't do bass well, as far as I'm concerned. It's wimpy, it's plasticky. I haven't found a single Hyphaman headphone, with the exception of the HE6, that does bass well. The reason I make that comparison is because every Abyss headphone I've heard does bass well, and I think it's worth keeping in mind. Because I don't want to get into a long discussion of the Abyss bass, but the long and the TLDR is that Abyss does bass well, not because it's extended like the Headphone headphones are. This is not as extended, but because of the grunt, the impact, the viscerality, the note weight, it's the drivers, of course, and also because it just is able to extract so much nuance, information, texture, and to summarize, just realism from bass oriented instruments that I think is what ultimately satisfies the cravings of a bass lover such as myself. That is exactly what this does so well. And I'll keep drawing references to Hyphaman throughout this review because I do feel like it's a perfect foil for Abyss because they have in many ways very contrasting sound signatures and ethos in many ways because while Abyss headphones are supremely well built, Hyphen headphones are not. They're very functional. But Hyphen headphones also give Abyss headphones a run for their money when it comes to technicalities because Hyphen headphones tend to be very technical, partially aided by lifter treble, which is not just Hyphen's fault or Hyphen's straight. Most high-end headphone brands have a lifter treble as a way of shoving resolution on your face. Okay, so moving on from bass, the mids of this headphone is, I mean, they're impressive. Um, Most fans of Abyss headphones do not, I think, token for mid range. They get mids elsewhere if they do token for mid range. Most Abyss headphones till date do not do mids as well as even, I think, I mean, they certainly don't do mids as well as ZMF headphones do. That's another interesting way of comparing Abyss, I think. But although I do think ZMF house sound and Abyss house sound are ever so slightly closer than the Hyphen house sound and the Abyss house sound. So ZMF headphones famously do mids very well, and I think they're perhaps the best brand for mids. If you like mids, there's just no other headphone on the planet, no other brand, no other house sound that do mids as consistently well as ZMF headphones do. Abyss hasn't typically gotten their mids to be as pleasing as their bass. This is a stark departure because this is one headphone where I feel the mids are they're very close to being phenomenal. So I don't think they're phenomenal, but I think they're very close to being phenomenal. And I'll tell you what I like about these mids. Beyond the fact that this uncovers a plethora of nuance, which this headphone does, and for $2,000, I feel it's crazy the amount of nuance and resolution you get with these headphones. The mids here have just the right timbre, which is just stunning. Because see, Hyphen and Abyss were also similar for a while in the sense that I don't think either of them do timbre very well, but I do think that a certain class of Hyphen headphones, especially the new Unveil headphones and the OG Susvara, they do get mid timbre right. It's a bit on the thinner side, but as far as thin-ish sounding headphones go, they still sound very realistic, especially vocals and strings. Now, what this does is it firstly it's got the pin again just right. I don't think it's as energetic as, let's say, the OG Aria or the OG Susvara, OG Arias or the OG Susvara, which is just right for me because I don't like that amount of pin again. But it's not as recessed as, let's say, the 1266 or many other Abyss headphones, and somehow it's able to get some of the timbral magic of a ZMF without actually being as good as ZMF in the mids, which is why I say if ZMF is phenomenal for mids, which it is, this is close to being phenomenal. The treble is another sort of band of frequencies where this really impressed me because this sounds very realistic in treble, very neutral in treble without being rolled off or overly warm. And if I were to explicate this by referring to frequencies, I feel like this does do lower treble really well without compromising or without giving you peaks and the sort of piercing quality that I think a lot of headphones that do lower treble well tend to. And then you also get upper treble energy, but I feel like it's just pull back enough that it doesn't sound, so cymbals and hi-hats don't sound as shimmery or as grating or as bright as I think other headphones can. The HE1000 SE comes to mind, which is a phenomenal headphone for its technical prowess, but the HE1000 SE, the OG, has such a wild, wild west kind of treble that you got it, and if you were treble tolerant or if you got used to treble, it would be an amazing ride in resolution and just this, because treble can create excitement. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, right? So for some people who find a lot of treble polite headphones boring, they can become treble heads over time as they get into more and more high-end headphones because it just gives you information and it sounds exciting. HE1000 SE was one such headphone. Some people swore by it. Some people loved it and loved it way more than a lot of other headphones. I didn't. I EQ'd it aggressively. I tubed it. The HE1000 SE at some point became fatiguing for me, not just because it was fatiguing to my ears, it was just fatiguing physically to continuously try to tame the treble because it had so much great excitement and resolution and all that. This is one headphone which I think is just a really solid example of what treble can sound like, where you're not compromising on the treble frequencies, but it's still not bright. And I would say my tolerance for treble at this current point in time is sort of average. It's sort of it's sort of median level tolerance. I'm not very, very treble sensitive, and I'm not treble insensitive either. I can handle a bit of treble, so take that for what that's worth. Now to talk about its technical chops, I think the long and short of it is this is perhaps the most technical headphone I've heard at $2,000 and rivaling a lot of high-fiber headphones, which can now be had for $2,000, which, like the HE1000 SE, right? It was $3,000 when it came out, then it dropped. You can even pick it up for $1,500. So purely for technical performance, if you look at how aggressively priced the previous generation of high-fiber headphones are nowadays, nothing compares to them for technical performance. I'll have to give that to HiFiman. Nothing in the market compares to these aggressively priced older generation HiFiman headphones for technical performance. But if you want a newer headphone and a better headphone with better bass, better timbre, better everything, perhaps with the exception of perhaps resolution, you shouldn't look at those HiFiman headphones. You should look at this. But if you want all out raw resolution and you're very treble insensitive, I do still think that you should get the HiFiman HE1000 SE and one of those, the HE1000 Unveil, is a much better headphone than the HE1000 SE because it's a lot tamer. But if you don't want to have to deal with treble in general, or if you want something more better rounded, if you like this kind of aesthetics, if you want something with better timbre, this I think is just so resolving for the price. It out-resolves everything else. I would take this over even Ryan's Modhouse headphones because Ryan is awesome. He's just so great to talk to. His headphones, I think, just really opened up a new vista for everyone because they're such great headphones. But I do find them heavy, and I don't want to be in that rat race of trying to unlock the Modhouse Tungsten's performance by chasing amps nowadays. I just don't have the time, guys. So I would take this over the Modhouse Tungsten. They look very industrial. Over time, they look, I think, somewhat tacky and just unimpressive. And you need a nuclear reactor to drive the Modhouse Tungsten. And they're friggin' heavy. They're heavy as hell, and I can't wear them for as long as maybe some of you can. So I would just take this in a heartbeat over the Modhouse Tungsten. The only headphone that I think competes with this is not an open back at this price point. It's the ZMF Ori 3.0, which is a closed back. And the Ori 3.0 is perhaps the Ori 3.0 and the Abyss JOAL are the best headphones on the planet for $2,000. And that's just my view. But I do think this is a little more resolving than the Ori 3.0, perhaps because it is an open back and for other reasons as well. Dynamics and punch-wise, this is as dynamic and punchy as you'd expect an Abyss headphone to be. But of course, there are other Abyss headphones that are more dynamic and punchy, like the 1266. How punchy and dynamic this turns out to be also does depend on what you drive it with. So keep that in mind. Generally speaking, broadly speaking, a sweeping statement is one in which I would say that higher end amplifiers have given me more dynamics. A topping perhaps will not. Okay. Timbre wise, like I said, this is perhaps the best Abyss headphone for timbre, and this is one of the best headphones for timbre in general. It's not a Sennheiser 6XX, but it's better than most headphones out there. It's not a ZMF, but again, I think it's just a step below a ZMF. It's, for the sake of comparisons, it's better than any other planar out there, I think. Okay, now I do want to talk about a sense of staging and width, because some of you have reached out to me inquiring. This, to respond to your inquiry, this is not as wide as, let's say, the 1266, but it's still not closed in. It's a classic headphone listening experience where you'll not be wanting for stage. It's not narrow like, let's say, a Focal LSD was narrow, which is a headphone I liked and I owned. So it's not very in sort of closed in. It's not wide. I honestly think it's median level soundstage. Imaging, though, is Abyss class, which is the same as saying master class for imaging, because Abyss has very precise images, like laser carved out images, and that's just true for this as well, which I think also lends to a sense of or perception of resolution. So yeah, I mean, it is a very technical headphone. It comes with this beautiful, very, very supple cable, which I'm using with an adapter. The adapter is provided, so I can use a 6.35 mm. The stock configuration is 4.4. I do wish this was an all black. This is a black. I wish this was a black dot cable, because that would be an aesthetic match, because I really do appreciate the blacked out look of this. So that's all I have, guys. This is a phenomenal headphone for the price, perhaps the best open back around as of 2025 for this price point of $2,000. And I do think that the other headphone that comes to mind that competes with this is a ZMF OE 3.0. If you had these two headphones, you could possibly retire from the hobby, which I've considered doing, but you guys keep pulling me back as to headphones like this. And I do also want to say that, guys, I had no plans of buying another headphone. I'm so happy with my setup. I also have a pretty high-end setup. I'm grateful to report. This is one headphone that I'm possibly going to reach out to Abyss to see if I can purchase this. So that's it for me, guys. I hope this was a useful review. If this was, you know the drill. Like my video. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It helps me get ranked higher in the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for my next one.